Well, Fritz Springmeier is our guest, and if he can do it Thursday, I'm broadcasting live for 27 hours total from 11 a.m. until the end of my show the next day. I might have Aaron do the last hour or something in the official show, but Aaron Dykes, I want to invite Fritz back for an hour. We've got so many guests from George Norrie to David Icke to you name it joining us that day. It's just going to be amazing. It'll all be free, by the way, not just the audio streams, but the parts not carried by XM, AM, FM, shortwave satellite, and things like that, you're going to be able to see free. And I think to beta test it, we're going to have it free on Justin TV, free stream from prisonplanet.tv, and a couple different systems embedded at Infowars.com and at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, so people can watch the entire 27-hour extravaganza where we try to get the rest of the funding for a couple more crew members, reporters, more equipment, and the fiber optic systems we need to get the show delivered to TV systems. Okay, going back to Fritz Springmeier with us for the rest of the hour, maybe a little bit in the next, joining us via video Skype. Fritz, you were getting to the point of running these guys out of the community. And I remember you were doing it. The cops were raiding your house, quote, for marijuana, finding nothing, then saying on the news, we found extremist material. Well, of course, you were always in your talks showing different groups and how they controlled them. And, you know, you're a researcher. So, I mean, they could come to my house and find Mein Kampf and say he had a Hitler book. I mean, you know, they could go to a Jewish rabbi's house and find that and say he's a Nazi, I guess. So you were warning people. You said they're getting ready to set me up. Why on earth would you then go rob a bank? And then they used all these disreputable people to do this to you. Briefly, tell folks about how you were set up.
They bribed 3 real criminals. When I was initially indicted and brought before a federal judge, Judge Brown, she honestly said, and she told this straight to the DA, she said, I'm going to release this man until trial because there is absolutely no evidence against him, and there never was. And the judge kept saying, the judge that presided over my trial, he kept saying like it was some kind of a mantra. He said, he kept telling everybody in the courtroom, circumstantial evidence can be used to prove anything. Well, circumstantial evidence is like I went to the mall and I saw Santa Claus. I saw him on television. I saw a book about him. Therefore, Santa Claus exists, you know. So using bribe testimony.
Or I say I went to Scotland. Or I say I went to Scotland and I saw the Loch Ness Monster with no proof.
Exactly. And that's what they hung me with. Absolutely no evidence, with bribe testimony that didn't even mean anything. And it's pretty startling. But today, juries are going to be looking at what the DA is doing, and they're going to, obviously my jury, if it was sincerely looking at the issues, must have said, well, why is the government going to all this trouble if he's not guilty? You know, because if they looked at at what was actually presented in the courtroom, there was nothing really presented. Now, like,
and by the way, I looked into your case. I looked into your case when I called, when this was all starting. You weren't there, but your wife was. And it was like, oh, he's not worried. This is all just another attempted setup, because you knew it was ridiculous and you knew the first judge had laughed it out. But they didn't care, because a lot of these juries now, they fixate on groveling to the power structure, and they enjoy putting innocent people in jail. I'm telling you, they're sickos.
Yeah. Well, and then I have to wonder if it was really a sincere jury. It certainly wasn't a jury of my peers. The type of people that were when we did voir dire, the type of people that were available to choose from were definitely people that were pro-establishment. And to give you just one example of many, one guy had been a lifetime submariner. Now, if you live on a submarine your entire life, you're going to be someone who follows commands, believes in the system, blah, blah, blah. You didn't see people that were coming out of the ghetto. You didn't see any, the entire group of people that were there were white. There was no minorities in the jury pool to pick from. Personally, I would have rather had some minorities that had a little distrust of the government. Yeah, your question about prisons was good, and let's maybe address that for a little bit, because a lot of your listeners may eventually during their life face something like that, because we're coming into some really difficult times. When I was a teenager...
Well, Fritz, I'm sorry. That was a short segment. You'll have a long segment, uninterrupted, straight ahead. We'll start at that point when we come back. You're 7-8 years behind the gulag wire. And I see you've lost a lot of weight, but your spirit's still there on the other side. Political prisoner, Fritz Springmeier. Stay with us. Now, going back to political prisoner Fritz Springmeier, you were talking about, hey, I've been on the other side. Was it 7 or 8 years? And you need to know what it's like, because a lot of you are probably going to be going there as well. We have the biggest prison population in the world. They're setting up a martial law internal checkpoint grid with federal goon forces. They're training neighbors to spy on each other. Jumbotron saying, don't trust your neighbor. It's like a dystopic film, sci-fi horror movie. 1984 meets Stephen King's The Running Man, meets Brave New World, meets The Island of Dr. Moreau. So please continue, Fritz Springmeier.
Yes, pulling together several of your questions, it would be appropriate to talk about prison. One of the benefits, one of the good things that my father had taught me was to think for myself. And so as a teenager, I knew that at some point I was going to bump into the system. There was a little plaque I put up on my door. It said, when freedom fails, good men rot in filthy jails. And I told my sister, I said, because I think for myself and I'm willing to do things about what I see, at some point I'm going to end up in prison. I knew that I was just going to bump heads with this established system at some point in my life, and eventually it happened. Wisdom is knowing what to do, skill is knowing how to do it, and virtue is actually doing it. And some of your listeners out there are actually going to have the virtue of getting out there and doing things. And when they do, you know, when freedom fails, the best men rot in filthy jails. That's where a lot of them eventually will end up. So what happens when you go to prison or jail? Well, two things. One is you're going to suffer loss, and the other one is you're going to wait. And you'll be lucky if you don't lose everything. And how long you wait, you don't know, because generally when you first get incarcerated, they don't tell you how long you're going to be in there, and you haven't been sentenced. So as far as you know, you could be in there the rest of your life or die in there. So even a week in a jail can seem like a very long time. So that's what I would forewarn people about, because a lot of people, when they get into jail, they start stressing that they're losing stuff, and they start stressing that they don't know how much time they're going to be incarcerated. Let it go. You know, it is what it is, and make the best of it and accept it. The best thing that can happen to get you through the time is to accept the reality that you've been incarcerated and start making the best of it. If you mentally fight the thing, you just go through paroxysms of torture. Accept what's happened and then move on in life and make the best of it. And that's what we have to do. We have to take the good with the bad and make the best of it, like you've been trying to do with your show, you know. I really love a lot of the things that you've done. I like your T-shirts that you're advertising, because I think part of the solution is we've got to laugh. You know, I mean, you've got tyranny, legalized freedom T-shirt. You know, that's humorous. That's part of the answer. You know, I hope your listeners out there buy these kind of things and walk around and, you know, get some chuckles.
Well, I think what you're getting at here is don't let it crush your spirit, and use it as a learning experience, and feel sorry for the people that are in there feeding you GMO and soy-based food and enjoying your pain, because because they are hurting themselves, hurting their soul, literally tying heavy weights and chains around themselves in God's eyes and really weighting themselves down for the drop into Hades. But it's one thing to imagine it. You have lived through it, Fritz. You lost a lot of weight. Why is that?
Well, halfway through my bit, I started exercising, and it was intentional to lose the weight. I'm healthier. I've been exercising for the last 5 years on a regular basis. So I'm actually healthier than when I went in. That's one of the advantages. Like I say, I took the time that I had to do, and I used it for good. While I was in there, I spent 5 years teaching GED. I got high school GED diplomas for a lot of the guys. I was using my time productively. And that's one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is we've just got to take the cards that we've been dealt and do the best we can with them. And of course, they're trying to deal us the worst cards that they can. But hey, it's not over until the fat lady in God's choir sings, Well,
said. So, no, please continue.
Well, I think you and some of the other people out there that are doing what you're doing are examples of what needs to be done, and that is, you're trying to make people self-sufficient, get people to think for themselves, get people to quit being a sheeple and think for themselves. And if we can win the hearts of the people, their minds and bodies will follow along.
Do you forgive the people that lied about you and persecuted you and put you in jail for how many years was it, Fritz?
Well, I was given a 111-month sentence, and I did 8 years actual time. And then about a year ago, I was released. I was out for 3 months, and then for no reason, at least they never gave me any specific reason, they just rearrested me and held me on a marshal's hold under investigation for another 2.5 months and never charged me with anything. Like I say, never gave me a specific reason as to why they put me back into prison. And then they released me towards the end of March. So now I've been out for, approximately 7 months this last time.
And we've been contacting you, trying to get you on. You said, I'm not ready yet. Why did you email us last week and say you were ready now?
It's been a year, and I feel more comfortable. It was like, maybe making the analogy, I wanted to sail the boat a little ways before I started rocking the boat.
Exactly. You wanted to get the feel of the boat first.
Yes.
All right, let me read some quotes here. I think it was Johann Goethe that said it, because it's got 2 quotes there and his name under it. It's at a university, but we're checking it. Correct us if we're wrong. He said both, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. That's a take off the Bible of, has eyes but still cannot see. Here's another one. No one escapes when freedom fails. The best men rot in filthy jails, and those that cried, appease, appease, are hanged by those they tried to please. So the point is, you also get put in prison fighting tyranny, but if you don't fight tyranny, they actually kill you.
Yes. One of my favorite quotes is Sam Adams said, if you love wealth better than liberty, crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. Yeah, that last part, may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. That
crouch
really,
down and lick the hand that feeds you.
Yeah. That tickles my funny bone there.
Well, Fritz, correct me if I'm wrong, you seem kind of tired a little bit in the one video I've seen where you gave a speech to a small group of people, but now you seem even more energized than when the few times I met you and watched you a decade ago. You seem to have actually been made stronger by this persecution.
Yes, and yeah, I have been. I've like I say, I used the time productively and worked on myself.